Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I'm a divorce valuation and mediation expert in St. Louis, Missouri. I have the pleasure of discussing today a fabulous book called the Forensic Accounting Deskbook with my guest, Miles Mason, a divorce lawyer in Memphis, Tennessee. So he's actually written this book, the Forensic Accounting Deskbook, and it's a practical guide to financial investigation and analysis for family lawyers. But I also think it's a really important resource for business valuation experts. Welcome, Miles. That's part of the role of the expert as well, is we can't assume that the attorney has seen everything. We can't assume that the attorney sees it through our eyes, right? I mean, you are very sophisticated and have a lot of credentials and a lot of background in this, but not everybody does. And so that's where I think it gets interesting to maybe give some advice to basic things that the expert should keep in mind if they're inexperienced and inexperienced in general, but then that will lead them to, if they're inexperienced in depositions, it also kind of creates a unique point of help that they might need.
That's a great question. And I like to work with young forensic accountants or inexperienced forensic accountants with this. Number one, judgment is your friend. When you don't know how to answer a question, so that's my judgment. And I said, well, you haven't been an expert for very long. You've only got your credentials in the last year or two. So no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about my judgment, which is experience, training, and education throughout my entire career. Going back to college, master's degree, working on the audits, and occasionally dipping my toe in the tax department when they need some help. So the judgment that comes through in learning the basic terminology to survive a deposition as an expert takes practice, okay? And there are some great schools out there that are taught by some fabulous forensic accountants out there to really help. But know that professional judgment is a great place to run and hide if need be. Mm-hmm. Now, even if you're stuck in a beauty contest and you've been a CFF for 2 years, you've done 2 depositions, no testifying in court, and you're up against a behemoth forensic accountant who's testified over 100 times in the courtroom, done over 300 depositions, spoken at every conference, with a half ounce of confidence, you're going to do just fine, okay? Now, what they're going to do is try to lay some basic traps for you. And in my book, I kind of cover some of those. But at the end of the day, you should always be very, very comfortable with your own skin and understand that those traps are there and that you must stay calm. And if somebody's yelling at you, leave. Okay? Punt. Get out of there. Mm-hmm. And then because nobody needs to be yelled at. Mm-hmm. And I do know forensic accountants that have been yelled at by divorce attorneys. And the reason the divorce attorneys yell at them is because they don't have anywhere else to go, right, other than to bully them. And so it's a lot of fun, your first few depositions. And if you need to know what some of those likely questions are, I wrote a book, and in the back I've got many, many, many pages of sample questions. And so you don't have to be perfect. You just need to not stand on a landmine or step on a landmine and have that blow up. Another thing is methodology. How did you come about figuring out what you're going to do on this engagement? Start with, I used my education, training, and experience. I looked at the basic documents and went through and chose some techniques to go through. Well, what do you mean by techniques? Well, the work I do is a technique. So I'm comparing a tax return to a financial statement. I'm comparing the financial statement from the business to a financial statement given to a credit facility. They look a little bit different. I want to know what those differences are. I want to look at the general ledger. Are there a bunch of complex transactions going on in retained earnings? If so, I found a few. They were adjusting entries, and I got the supporting documents I need, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of great opportunities if you learn the basic craft as a young, inexperienced, or inexperienced, because there's plenty of forensic accountants out there in their 50s that left audit and tax because they thought it would be fun. And it is fun. It really is. And I get real excited about going to the CPA conferences and look around the room. And now there's people there way younger than me. Used to be the other way around. So, it's exciting. It's fun. But you do need to make sure that some of the obvious pitfalls are avoided.